In 2009, I entered the workforce as a newly high school graduate, doing a little bit of community college during one of the worst economic recessions that we had faced up until that time. On top of that, my father was very, very ill because he was a house painter, got intoxicated with some paint. Point of that is, I became the single income earner for a family of six, had to pay a mortgage, had to pay our car bills, and had to figure it out. So I want to give you my perspective, having gone through that experience, starting a business and running that for 11 years now, going through COVID, and now actively growing the existing business that we have, and kind of my perspective going into uncertain times with everybody talking about recessions and so on. So in this episode, I want to give you my raw takes on a recession. All right, so a little bit about me. I grew up as an undocumented immigrant in the United States. For those of you who don't know what that means I couldn't get a job. I couldn't really go to school and be a lawyer, a doctor. All of the doors that were available to me were shut. And as I said in the intro, I became the head of household at 18 years old because my dad could not work. He was a house painter all his life, never made more than 14 bucks an hour. We grew up on food stamps. I grew up selling tamales door to door, standing in food bank lines, did anything we could to just survive. So things were rough. Growing up, I didn't really know that. It was just the way we grew up, and everybody around me was in a similar situation. I didn't become cognizant of that until I had bills to pay and a mortgage to do. And I'm like, this stuff is hard. I remember I was 17, 18 years old and working as a house painter at the time. And next to me, there was a new hire, and he was 35 years old with two kids. We made the same amount of money. I think I was like 15, 16 actually. We made 10 bucks an hour, except I went and spent it on a stupid cell phone and probably too much food during lunch. He was conserving that money because he needed to pay for everything for a family of four on $10 an hour. I was 15 years old. And I'm like, how does he do it? I can't afford lunch. He has to feed a family. And so I think that was a very interesting experience for me early on, when I really realized, I'm like, damn, it's hard. It's hard to make it happen. And so I can empathize with that. Fast forward, I'll come back to what happened 2008, 2009. 2012, after a few jobs and some sales jobs, I quit my last sales job and I started Just Digital, which is a marketing agency. I've been running that successfully over the last almost 11 years now. Last July, I acquired a second company, another marketing agency, and I'm gearing up to acquire more agencies during this time. I'm super excited for the opportunities that are going to be presented. And so I think I have an interesting vantage point, having gone through just a life experience. This isn't for everybody. Like I maybe wired differently, or I think differently because of my life experiences or my perspective or whatever the case may be. But hopefully you find this video helpful, entertaining, interesting at the very least. But I thought I'd put my thoughts out there on recession. I talk to business owners. We have over 150 clients that we work with at any given time at our marketing agencies. They're all business owners. They're all employ people. We have a team of around 40 people on our team. Our payroll is six figures now, which is insane. Paying people six figures a month for the entire team. Anyway, point of that is, we have a lot of responsibility to make things happen for our team, to make things happen for our clients. Our clients are coming to us because they want marketing and growth and more leads and more sales. And that's our job, is to try to figure out how do we help them do that. And so during what just happened in COVID, I remember I was on phone calls all day because clients were panicking naturally, right? They didn't know what was going to happen. And so you have to make decisions right there. This was before all the stimulus stuff. This was just like the first few weeks. Everybody was freaking out. And I remember there were two polar opposite reactions. One of the things that I saw during COVID is that it really brought out the real version of people. And that was interesting to me because when you're in fight or flight mode, that's where you can really tell who you really are, right? When things get tough, like, do you step up to the plate? Do you face the adversity with a positive light or a negative light? Albert Einstein has a beautiful quote that says, the most important decision you can make is whether you think the world is a hostile, or the universe is a hostile place or a friendly place. And I think seeing business owners, and again, I was on calls all day with some people who were like, the sky is falling, everything's bad, and we need to cancel, right? Until we were losing revenue. Um, and which means if we're losing revenue, at the time I had a dozen or so employees or team members, and I'm like, how are we going to make payroll? Do we have enough cash? Are we ready for this? Fortunately, I had done some things that we were strong enough, but I'm like, if everybody closes up shop, we don't have a business, they don't have a business, everything just stops, right? And so I run a pretty small company in the grand scheme of things. But I'm like, I still have 12 people that are looking to me for a paycheck, for some sort of certainty, for me to like be sharp and have decisions. And so having gone through the experience in '09, when I graduated high school and entering the workforce, and then 2020, I think really taught me a lot. And so the two polar opposite experiences that, or reactions that people had in during COVID was, oh my God, this is going to be terrible. We're going to go into a Great Depression, stop everything, retreat, conserve. I want to survive. We had clients that were, I was on the phone and that's what they were telling me. And, I'm listening because I don't know what the heck is going to go on. And on the opposite client, we had somebody that said, there's going to be so much opportunity. We need to go aggressive. We need to push. We need to do something new, something different. And for his industry, it was a great opportunity. Actually, for both industries, it was a great opportunity in hindsight. But one decided to conserve and retreat. The other one said, I'm going to go all in. One stayed flatlined. One, I think they probably tripled, if not 4x'd in the last 2.5 years. And so I think that seeing those two reactions was very interesting because it was a choice, right? Nothing, the circumstances outside were the same. Businesses were very similar. It was just two different mindsets, two different approaches. And then you go to work every day with that mindset, and one is going to serve you, one is going to propel you forward, one is going to tell you to conserve and go into flight mode, right? And so looking at that from my perspective, at the time I was like, that's interesting, completely different vibe on those calls. Yet when I look back, I'm like, the results are obvious. They speak for themselves. And so I always remember that call. We were fortunate enough to make it and obviously do well. And then, so far so good. But there's a lot of uncertainty going on. And so one of the marketing agencies that I run, we do marketing for financial advisors. And so the markets and the economy and interest rate hikes and layoffs and all that stuff is really front and center in the day to day. Yet I choose to take the optimistic route, not only because I heard that client, but also I've gone through enough life experiences where I'm like, whatever's going to happen in the world, it'll be temporary. And the only thing that isn't going to be temporary is how you respond, who you are as a person. And when things get tough, how do you respond? And so at the time, 2009, when my father got sick, I didn't really have a choice. I had to step up. I had to become the head of household. I had to take care of the family. I had to pay all the bills. And so I went and I hustled and I found jobs and I made it happen. And then I got sales jobs and then I increased my income. And I just went on this journey to like figure stuff out. I don't remember watching a ton of YouTube videos or following influencers or buying courses or buying that. I was just like, I need to do what I know how to do, which is knock on doors and create opportunity. As an undocumented immigrant, that's all I knew how to do. I knew how to knock on doors and sell tamales, to be fully honest. And then I remember going as a kid, if I wasn't selling, like after school, I would just go and help my parents make income, but just hustling and not hustling, selling tamales, really, and selling stuff. And I would knock on hundreds of doors. And if one door said no, I would knock on the next door and they would say no, and they would say no, and they would say no, until some people said yes. And it was just a numbers game. And so I learned to enjoy that process. I also learned to enjoy the satisfaction of taking care of my family and coming to my mom and saying, hey mom, look at what I have, and giving her the money. And I remember those being some of the most joyful moments of my life, when everybody else was like, you should have been playing with friends or doing this or that. I'm like, it taught me so much resilience. It taught me how to have fun in the face of adversity. Again, I didn't know that we were poor, that we had all this stuff going on. So when these challenges have presented themselves, I've been able to, be lucky enough to test my own skills and my ability. And so, again, that's just a little bit of my personal story and how I'm choosing to face whatever economic uncertainty is. There's experts out there who have zero idea whether the economy is going to go up or it's going to go down. At the end of the day, we live in a phenomenal country and a phenomenal planet that has an abundance of opportunity. And I choose to look at it that way. Like, even if another thing that I look at is there's always opportunity wherever you go. There's always opportunity. You just have to look for it. One of the things that I found interesting as I was studying a little bit of history was during the Dark Ages, which are one of the darkest, obviously they're named the Dark Ages, one of the darkest periods in human history for that part of the world, the Arab world was having an incredible flourishment of history, of art, of creativity, of poetry. It was a golden age for them. And so in one part of the world, things were really, really bad and it was just terrible, i.e. the Dark Ages. In another part of the world, you had some of the most amazing poetry, not just the Arab world, but like the Persian Empire and with Rumi, the poetry that came out of that, a lot of the art, the just there was a lot of beauty in that time of history in a different part of the world. And so when I look at like how the world is set up, it's like, it's winter in some parts of the world now, it's summer in another part, right? There's always opportunity somewhere. You just have to look for it. And I think maybe it's an immigrant mentality where it's like, if things aren't, first you try to make things amazing where you are. And then if not, you move to somewhere where there's an abundance of opportunity. And so I think that is something that I always find where it's like, if whatever it is I'm doing in that job or in that business isn't working, then I'm going to make it better. And if I can't make it better, then I'm going to move on to the next thing and do that process. But I'm always betting on myself and my ability to do that. So again, I hope you found this quick little video helpful and inspiring. I will see you in the next episode of the HFS show.